it's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Hour 2 of FST here on SportsGrid. We've been breaking down the outfielders, and now we're going to pivot to the ADP because these are the decisions you're going to have to make in your drafts in the next coming days and weeks ahead. So these are players at different positions, similar ADP, and we're going to find out which ones we'd rather select. And we're going to start with the late first round here. You know, it's early in the top 10. It's pretty easy, right? Oh, no, I ended up with Juan Soto, or oh my goodness, I had to take Jose Ramirez. What a tragedy. That stuff's easy. So we're going to start to press a little bit and see which way we want to build our rosters for 2025. And let's start with two guys who are going around the turn in most drafts outside the top 10. Let's start with Corbin Carroll at an ADP of 11 overall and Francisco Lindor at 12. Now, Lindor this year is going to have Juan Soto hitting behind him. He has never had anybody this good hitting behind him. He's leading off. He's going to get a ton of at-bats this year. He is a 30-30 guy, George, potentially, with good batting average, probably 100 runs scored, probably going to drive in close to 90 runs, at least in the 80s. You would imagine even hitting in that one spot because the bottom of that Mets lineup is not bad either, especially if Francisco Alvarez starts to turn things around. So I'm going to go first here. I'm going to go ahead and take Francisco Lindor. It's not because I'm a Mets homer. It's because I believe in the track record of the player, whereas Corbin Carroll last year, an incredibly disappointing first half of the season. Yeah, maybe it was some shoulder issues, but maybe it was also some discipline issues that he was having too. I always thought Corbin Carroll was a guy that was slump-proof, but I was proven wrong last year, and it shook me to my core. So although I really like Corbin Carroll, and I know he might have even more stolen base potential than Lindor, I'm going to take Lindor here, build my shortstop as my number one pick here at the turn. George, Corbin Carroll is on the board. Lindor is on the board. You're on the clock. Who are you taking?
In a vacuum, I agree with you. I think Lindor is the better player here than Carroll. Let me tell you why I might take Carroll, though. We start 5 outfielders in most leagues. All right, yeah. You're probably in a 12-team league. 5 times 12, that's 60 outfielders. That's an average of 2 per team here. They run out quick. Shortstop is a very deep position here. I might be better off with Carroll and another shortstop later than Lindor and another outfielder later. What I'm trying to say is I might like my team better with Carroll. But I'm the first person to tell you that if in my rankings, I have Lindor higher. I do. I have him higher than 12, by the way. I think I'm at 8. So I like Lindor. I do like Lindor better, but I'm not blaming anybody who's looking at how they're going to build their team. and how they may listen, outfielders, you're going to run out of outfielders. You just are. There aren't 60 outfielders. They're just not. So with shortstop, the 8th, 9th shortstop is pretty solid here. It's not Lindor, but you're not going to be upset about it where, your third, if you go Lindor 1, you wait on outfield, your 3rd, 4th, 5th outfielders might look kind of ugly here. Or you may have to draft outfielders at the expense of pitching or whatever it might be. So that's my only argument against Lindor. That being said, I have Lindor ranked higher than Carroll.
Next up here, guys, at 14 and 15 overall, Fernando Tatis Jr., who we mentioned earlier in this segment, and Vlad Guerrero Jr., a guy that we've been talking about the last few weeks at the corner spot. So he qualifies at first. In some leagues, he qualifies at third as well. He's playing for a contract. Now, Tatis has given you some incomplete seasons. Vlad Guerrero has given you some seasons as well where maybe underwhelming at times and then brilliant at others. Last year, it was more brilliant, especially in the second half for Vlad Guerrero Jr. I'm going to keep this one simple here, George. For me, it's Vlad playing for that money. I think he is focused. I think he's ready to go. And I love what the Blue Jays have in that lineup this year. I think Santander was a huge get for them. I think that you have Bo Bichette bounce back. And those two players, those two bats alive and well in that lineup go a long way to help Vladdy Guerrero Jr. go out there and cash in this year. Now, Tatis is going to give you more stolen bases. I get that. I think Vladdy gives you that better batting average, so it's kind of one for the other. I keep saying it's easier to find steals than power and batting average. I like Vlad. Who do you like in this spot here? You can only take one.
I could be a little worried about Vlad that he gets traded, right? Toronto gets off to a slow start. They fall out of it. Are they going to want to lose him for nothing? Or they move him at the deadline here. By the way, he gets traded. He may get traded to a good team. Maybe it's Fenway Park or something like that, where it works out anyway here. But that might be in the back of my mind where the second half could be a little worrisome depending on if and when they trade him and where he goes. But I agree with everything you said. And I know outfield is thin. First base is thinner. My God, if you don't get one of the top 3 or 4 first basemen, you're not going to like it. I mean, once again, that home league of mine tomorrow, I have I guess that's 18th pick in the overall. That's the middle of the second round. I have first base circle. I'm praying that a first baseman falls to me. It won't be Vlad. All right. I know it's not going to be Vlad. Probably not going to be Freeman. I'm sort of hoping Olsen falls there because, like I said, first base is so thin. I'm taking Vlad here purely for that reason. I think listen, no matter what category you put up here, you're going to want to circle first base and look at your second round for a first baseman at the end of your first round. Because if you're somebody who, if you're going to hate your first baseman all year long because you ended up with Yandy Diaz, then you might want to look drafting a first baseman maybe even a little earlier than you normally would if that would make you feel more comfortable. Vlad is who I'm taking here.
All right, George, you're worried about first base and you're worried about outfield. So let's put those two things together and have some fun. Bryce Harper, next guy on our list, and certainly Bryce Harper, always an MVP candidate at ADP of 20 overall. Jarren Duran, the outfielder who had a brilliant season in 2024. Can he repeat it in 2025? That's the big question. Boston looks like a contender this year, made some big offseason moves. They have a lot of young talent coming through that organization. He's at 22. So, George, this is kind of holding your feet to the fire here because you have first base you're worried about. You have the deeper outfield situations you're worried about. So do you want to take the MVP caliber guy in Harper or more of the 5-tool guy is going to give you more stolen bases in Jarren Duran, but probably not nearly the amount of power that Bryce Harper gives you? I know my answer, but I want to hear yours.
Once again, it's the same answer as last time. Because I'm so worried about first base, I'm taking Harper. Harper's might be if Harper around round 20, I'm going to assume once again, Vlad's gone, Freeman's gone, Olsen's gone, Harper's left, and he's the last one. I guess you maybe put Alonso in here, depending on what you think he's going to have a bounce back. I could see him being in this conversation as well here, and I do think Alonso bounces back, or even if he doesn't. A bad year for Alonso, still probably low 30 home runs. The batting average might hurt you, but he should drive in 1 million runs there in that lineup here. So you certainly could put him in this category here. I like Duran. All right, I like him a whole bunch. I think he's a very good young player here, and I like what Boston's done in that lineup. Devers, go play DH, buddy. Stop being a little baby about this.
100%.
Here. All right, go play DH. Put Bregman at third. Put the rookie at second base, and Boston, away we go here. So listen, I like Duran a lot. No problem on my fantasy team, but I can find outfielders I can live with. I cannot find first baseman I can live with. I want Harper.
I gotta tell you, George, I think it's crazy to think that Devers doesn't play more games at DH than anywhere else. I'm sorry. It's just You take one for the team, buddy. Like, you need to be a team player. Look at Mookie Betts. That guy plays everywhere you ask him to, and it's a lot harder to move around. All we're asking you to do is hit. You're a terrible defensive player, Rafael Devers. You're a good hitter. Stop it. Last one here for ADP Wars for this week. We'll bring this back next week for you. At 24, Trey Turner, shortstop of the Philadelphia Phillies. Another guy, too, 2 halves of the season, a little Jekyll and Hyde, but also Ketel Marte, who was absolutely spectacular for the Diamondbacks in 2025. I feel like Marte is a player on the upswing, and Trey Turner is a player that is kind of, I don't want to say fading, but I was never I'm going to build my team around Trey Turner kind of guy. He's just not my profile type player. So for you, George, Marte or Trey Turner in 2025, who would you rather pick?
Boy, I'm worried about first base being shallow. Second base is a disaster. I mean, my God. Semien, do you think he has a bounce back? Altuve, maybe Luis Arias if you want average, if he's qualified at second base for you. Ozzy Albies. After that, I mean, and we're not even talking about great players here. Solid players, good players, but not great. It's Ketel Marte. I kind of agree with you about Turner, although I do wonder once again, does he have one big year left in him? You know, so I like Trey Turner. I love that slide across home plate, by the way. It's the greatest athletic slide ever. That being said, it's not enough to get me to draft him over Ketel Marte. I believe in Ketel Marte that he's going to keep it up here. Give me Ketel.
All right, when we come back, we're going to continue on with some outfielders, maybe some late round steals. If you miss out on outfield runs, George said it. Look, you've got a lot of outfield spots to fill. These are some names that can help you when we return.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's easy to pick the good players. It's harder as the draft goes on to find guys that you really want as diamonds in the rough. And in the outfield, as George said earlier, it gets kind of dark out late. It's kind of tough out there. In those outfield streets, you got a lot of guys working in platoons. You got a lot of young players, maybe players who have statistical profiles that are really exciting for you. But there are some guys that are going later in ADP that I think are worth mentioning. Now, this first guy we're going to talk about over the weekend, he did have a little bit of a wrist issue. the x-rays were negative. He's going to go for some imaging just to be sure that everything is okay. But Jurickson Profar, coming off a career season last year for the Padres, finds himself in Atlanta. This was one of the under-radar signings that I absolutely love this offseason. The Atlanta Braves crushed this one. This year, the projections for him, I think, are a little light, to tell you the truth. 16 homers, 7 steals. I think he could be much more of a 15-15 guy, and I think the batting average over 256 as well. I think these projections are baking in that Profar has been a guy that has struggled at times in his career or struggled with injuries in his career. However, if he's healthy, and again, that's an if, we'll have to continue to look forward to more news from the Jurickson Profar camp in the next 48 hours. So far, the signs are good, but if he's healthy, George, you know at the beginning of the year when Acuna is out that he's going to be hitting towards the top of that order. If he gets hot, stays hot, he could stick at the top of that order, and Michael Harris might be the guy that gets dropped down. That would make Profar incredibly valuable, in my opinion, and when you consider his ADP, I think it's pretty crazy not to want to make that investment. What are your thoughts on Profar as a late-round outfielder?
Oh, late round, fine, right? You be very careful right now. Now, the x-rays did come back negative. We know that, but that just means there's no broken bones, right? We'll see what's going on with wrist and ligament damage, ligament tendon, everything else is going on in that wrist. So I need more information right now before I touch Profar. I already mentioned the 2 worst injuries for a batter, oblique and wrist. Anything to do with the hands, fingers, not good when it comes to a batter here. So I need more information right now. But listen, I'm drafting Monday night. If he falls down where he'd be my 4th, 5th outfielder, oh, fine. I'll take him. No worries. Because once again, either he's hurt, he's my 4th, 5th outfielder. I'll have somebody on my bench, by the way, because I'll have, reserve outfield. I can just plug in for him. So I'll be okay with that here. But drafting him to be anything more than that right now, no, can't do it. Now, unless we get more information, as you said, I'm drafting in 31 hours. That's bad math, but around 34 hours or so. Hopefully, I'll have more information. 7:30 tomorrow night, so at 8:30, whatever it is. It's a while. So I'll have more information. At least I should have more information. But Joe, I am generally a very conservative drafter, especially in the early rounds. He won't go in the early rounds, right? He'll go in the later rounds.
Oh, he's pick number 165, George, right now, and that's before the injury rounds.
But here's my problem.
All right, let's see if you want to. Okay, go ahead.
Suppose I've drafted 2 or 3 other guys that just like him. I can't have 4 guys that are all iffy. Can't have that. Sure. If he's my only guy or one of 2, okay, fine. We're all going to have guys. Listen, you draft a 23, 30-man roster. We're all going to have guys that have some problems. There's very few rosters that aren't going to have that little red cross next to their name, right? There's some kind of injury here. So I'm okay as long as it's 1 or 2 and I have a backup. It's when I have 4 or 5 of these guys and I don't have backups that I start to worry.
All right. The Tigers were a surprise last year for many people, and Kerry Carpenter, one of the pleasant surprises in that lineup. Last year in 2024, he had 18 homers, 57 RBI, hit 284 in just 87 games. So it's wheels up for Kerry Carpenter, 27 years old. You look at some of the projections here, George, for him, 22 homers, 70 RBI. Maybe the batting average takes a little bit of a regression here, but Carpenter, very solid last year. Detroit, a team that, again, has some upside, and that division is going to be very competitive. Is Kerry Carpenter a late-round outfielder that people should be paying attention to?
Yes, because once again, we say it over and over again, 12-team league, 5 outfielders, that's 60 outfielders, plus you're going to have a couple of outfielders at DH, plus the ones that are on reserve. Every outfielder is gone. All right, everyone's gone here. The only problem is I think the upside is limited. All right, you are playing Comerica. It's a pitcher's ballpark, right? It's not a hitter's ballpark, so I don't see 30-plus home runs happening here, all right? But I think, once again, he could be a serviceable guy. He's a guy who won't hurt you, that kind of thing. A filler. Yeah, and by the way, when I say that, I don't mean that as a negative. We all need fillers. Guys that aren't going to hurt you and probably aren't going to win you a league either here, but we all need guys like that, especially when you have 5 outfielders. You're not getting 5 all-stars. You're not unless you draft the outfield first 5 rounds. All right, so you need guys like this. So I have no problem grabbing Kerry Carpenter late, but it's an unsexy name. Upside is limited here.
All right, a guy going outside the top 250 picks in the outfield that I've been taking a lot because I do think he can help with batting average. He can give you some steals, give you a little bit of power too, is Jung-Hoo Lee of the San Francisco Giants. He never got going last year. Injuries derailed his first season, but so far off to a pretty good start this spring. He's going to be hitting between Willy Adames and Matt Chapman in that lineup. Now, I know George is going to say, well, it's not the best ballpark factor, and he's right, but Jung-Hoo Lee to me is a guy that can fill the stat sheet give you a little bit of everything. He's going to score some runs, drive in some runs, and makes good contact. This is a guy that, in his previous professional experience was a guy fighting for batting titles. I think Jung-Hoo Lee could be a really interesting one. JJ Bleday, another guy going outside that top 250 there, had a really nice season quietly for the Athletics. Sure, the batting average is going to be a little lower there. You want him to make a little bit more contact. But in terms of power, he flashed 22 homer potential last year. So when you're looking at Bleday, Jung-Hoo Lee, do these outfielders stand out to you? Is there another name late in that outfield pile that you find yourself targeting late in drafts?
I think as we get later in drafts, Joe, I'm also looking, okay, what categories do I need to fill? Or what categories do I not want to hurt myself in? I may not want – I like Bleday more than Lee in a vacuum, but maybe I got to protect the average. I can't take a 230, 240. Even if he gets a 240, I can't take it. It's going to hurt me. Maybe I got to go to Lee because of what you said. He'll help me in average, and I believe he will. I had Lee last year in a league or two. I bought in here. Of course, the injuries, he didn't do all that well here. It all depends on what I need. Do I need average, which I generally I'm always worried about? Do I need bases? I might need to take that outfielder who's a nobody, but he might steal 20 bags here because that's what I need here. Do I need power? Now, generally, I don't have a problem finding power. It's average and bags that I worry about here. So I'm going to lean towards Lee here, the players you mentioned, because that's probably what I need here. I think I need the extra outfield either to protect it or to bring myself up a couple of points.
Yeah, it's a great way to dissect those two outfielders, but both certainly in their spot can be very useful if you're looking for power or if you're looking for batting average. Those are two guys late that you can draft. When we come back, we're going to talk about two big bounce back guys that were going in the first or even second round of drafts last year that aren't right now. Can they bounce back in 2025? We'll tell you when we come back.
Philadelphia 76ers, they tried to play two different things. They tried to play contender, and they tried to play protect Joel Embiid. It wasn't doing Joel Embiid any good. This goes back to what I've talked about numerous times on this network. Why did they let him play in the first place? Why was he on the Olympic team? I mean, we looked at it last year in the playoffs against the Knicks. The damn kid was on one leg.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
To draft or not to draft Ronald Acuna in 2025? That is the question. Whether he returns again from ACL injury and is an absolute rock star of a fantasy baseball player, or after two ACL tears, are we a little concerned? Now, Ronald Acuna is still pretty young. I think people forget how young of a player he is because Ronald Acuna has been around for so long. We just kind of take him for granted. But George, we're trying to evaluate Ronald Acuna in 2025. It is a complicated situation. He is slated to miss probably all of April. We expect to get him back sometime in May. He's only 27 years old and only 1 year removed from a 40-70 season where he hit 330. That's pretty good. That is a player that is going to make a massive impact. Now, currently his ADP is somewhere around the 27th player off the board. So you're looking potentially at a third round investment in most leagues in Acuna. April is April. It's a very bountiful time on the waiver wire. I'm willing to draft Ronald Acuna for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's going to be outfielders that slip through the cracks that people go, oh, look, who's this guy that just popped up out of nowhere? Who's playing right field for this team that I can stick in that outfield spot for a couple weeks. Maybe I catch lightning in a bottle, and then I drop them or put them on the bench when Ronald Acuna is healthy. The last time we saw Ronald Acuna return from this ACL tear, everybody talked about, well, you got to watch him. He's not going to steal bases anymore. Well, that wasn't the case. In 119 games in 2022 when he returned, he stole 29 bases in those 119 games. It was actually the power that lagged behind. He only had 15 home runs. And keep in mind, this was before the rules change in Major League Baseball that made it easier to steal bases. So, George, I'm going to ask you right here, third round, Ronald Acuna is on the board. You know what kind of impact he can make. If he can give you 5 months, is he worth a top 30 pick overall? I say yes. What say you?
Hell no. Not even close. All right, there's no way I'm spending a third round pick on Ronald Acuna. He's going to miss a month. And I mean, I can make all the jokes you want here. You're smelling the daisies here. You're smoking the good stuff. I mean, because you're assuming he comes back and he's Ronald Acuna. All right, then we don't know that. And by the way, he's quoted as saying, I'm not going to run as much this year. I mean, he's quoted as saying that. So there's no way I'm taking him. Listen, I hope he does. All right, I really hope he comes back here. Now, I'll talk about a redraft league, by the way. In a keeper league or a dynasty league, completely different question here. Then I'm taking Acuna.
Mm-hmm.
But in a redraft league, I already said it. I'm a very conservative drafter. All right, I get worried, with later picks. Now you want to talk about one of my premium picks? You want me to take a player who's I already know is going to be out. I have no idea if he's going to be that player he used to be for a month once he comes in, 2 months. When he gets off to a slow start, what if he gets hurt again? If he's telling the truth about not running, and also I'm the first person to tell you, I don't know if he's telling the truth. What he says in February may not be what he means in April. We'll see. But I don't think he'll run as much because I don't think the Braves are going to want him to run as much. All right, hit the ball. All right, be at that presence at the top of a lineup here. And I think they want to be completely healthy as they get going for the playoffs here. I think the Braves know they're more than likely making the playoffs no matter what they do here. So, no, I am not. There's too many good players on the board that I'm going to stare at and go, oh, he's missing 6 weeks, but I should take him over him. It's not going to happen. I like him. I want him. But you probably took a top 40.
Let me pose this to you. Back-to-back right now in ADP, Jazz Chisholm and Ronald Acuna. Jazz Chisholm never been the picture of health. He has missed significant time in almost every season he's played. So what's the month to Jazz Chisholm or a month to Ronald Acuna? Who would you rather have?
I don't know if I'm taking Jazz. I don't know if
I'm taking Ronald Acuna every single time. One is an absolute beast. The other is a nice player. I'm sorry. I just can't do it, George.
The one argument I could probably make here, you probably chose the wrong position because it's second base. I know how bad second base is. I said I am very positioned where I had this problem in a lot of leagues where I look, I hate this guy, and because it's a weak position. I end up
but Jazz qualifies at third field. Look, George, third and outfield. Yeah. All right. There's one more guy I want to talk about before we get out of this segment here. It's Luis Robert, who is going as the 89th player off the board. Last year, incredibly disappointing. We all know. We saw the White Sox. The White Sox are awful. But let's remember, in 2023, this guy had 38 home runs, drove in 80 runs, and scored 90 runs at 264. Luis Robert is just 27 years old as well. And to me, this is another dude that's going far too late in draft. I'm going to take a shot at him because why? He's an impact player who has power, who has speed. Yeah, I know the White Sox are terrible. I don't expect him to be a White Sox for the entire season. If he gets dealt to a contender, what a huge difference that might make for Luis Robert in the second half. And I'm getting a huge discount. So maybe you're not getting a discount on Acuna, but Luis Robert's discount is clear. So either way, you're getting a discount on two premium guys in 2025. It's up to you to make that decision. When we come back, a look at the Central in the National League.
Philadelphia 76ers, they tried to play two different things. They tried to play contender, and they tried to play protect Joel Embiid. It wasn't doing Joel Embiid any good. This goes back to what I've talked about numerous times on this network. Why did they let him play in the first place? Why was he on the Olympic team? I mean, we looked at it last year in the playoffs against the Knicks. The damn kid was on one leg.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
If there's a division in baseball that is wide open for business, it's the National League Central. Some big-time pitchers, a few big-time hitters, but also no clear favorite, at least in my opinion. Now, last year, the Milwaukee Brewers were that team, and Milwaukee lost a big piece. Willie Adames leaves. He goes to the San Francisco Giants. They also lost their closer, Devin Williams, to the Yankees via trade. Now, McGill was pretty good as a fill-in, and I expect him to be a decent fantasy return this season, but let's take a deep dive here on the lineup of the Milwaukee Brewers and see what George thinks about this win total for them. You look here at the top, you're getting Chourio, then Yelich, who is always hurt one way or another. He just came back in spring. I know he had a good game yesterday. I can't count on him. You got Contreras. Okay, theoretically a nice 1, 2, 3. Then Garrett Mitchell, Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Terang, who I think is a player that I think is highly overrated in fantasy this year, Ortiz, Frelick, Oliver Dunn. This is not an exciting lineup. I'm sorry. It is not. There's not enough here to look at and say this is a formidable offense. So when you look at the pitching staff, they're going to have to make up that ground. George, Freddie Peralta's at the top of this pitching staff. You're also going to get Tobias Myers. You're going to get Nestor Cortez coming over here from the Yankees, Aaron Savali, Jose Quintana. After Freddie Peralta, not a big power rotation. Where does that leave you with the Brewers in 2020?
I mean, they always outplay what we think they're going to do. They always do this. All right, you lose Adames, that's a major bat. You lose Devin Williams. I think you can replace Devin Williams, by the way. It's a closer. You should be able to do that. But, I mean, you certainly said the lineup is not sexy. It's not going to outscore people. The bottom half is, ugh. All right, I mean, Yelich is not Yelich anymore. I do like Chourio. All right, Contreras, fine, very good hitting catcher, but we're not talking Mike Piazza here. I mean, this looks like a 500 team. That's what it looks like. 81, 84 wins at best here. Yeah, in that division, they'll be in it because I don't know if anybody's winning 90 games in that division. But do I think they're a team to look out for? No. Do I think they're one player away? No. So I would say somewhere around a 500 team, between 79 and 84 wins is where I would have them penciled in for, not a playoff team.
And it's frustrating too because this was a team that made the playoffs again last year. I feel like the Milwaukee Brewer fan base deserves more of an investment, and ownership just doesn't give it to them, George. There were plenty of free agents they could have been in on. They were no nobody, and they were shedding salary, if anything. Look, credit to them for giving Churio a long-term contract, but 82.5 is the number. It's a stay away from me. To me, that's like the perfect number for this team. Barely, maybe over 500. But again, can you count on Christian Yelich? I can't. So I'm out here on the Brewers this year. And also, no more Corbin Burns at the top of that rotation either the last 2 years. Freddie Peralta did a really good job at the top. I don't think he's got a whole lot of help the rest of it. Let's get to the next team on our list that I'm a little bit sunnier on. A very athletic team, a team that brought in a veteran manager in Terry Francona year over year. It's the Cincinnati Reds. Now, this lineup has some athleticism. TJ Friedel at the top, Matt McClain, who's got power and speed, Ellie De La Cruz, a budding young superstar, then Tyler Stevenson. After this again, top three good, starts to get a little weird here as we go. We're looking at Spencer Steer's health fitting in here at some point. Gavin Lux at third, Austin Hayes in left field, Jake Fraley at DH, Candelario, Will Benson, who, again, athletic player, but the top of this order is really what you have to count on. Hunter Green, Brady Singer, Nick Lodolo in the rotation. Now, Lodolo, a guy that I actually have a lot of expectations for this year. Sometimes lefties take a little bit longer in the pressure cooker to cook up. I think he's got all of the makeup, all the right tools. He's just got to stay healthy this year. If he does, I think he'll be a nice late round pitcher in fantasy. But Green, Lodolo, Singer, that's enough of a rotation where I think they can be very competitive. The bullpen, some questions there. What do you make of this highly athletic Reds team, but still very young and inexperienced?
I'm hoping I would year off on them. I thought they would have a better year last year than they did. All right, so I think I had a ticket on in the women's division, didn't pan out that way. So I'm hoping I was a year early. I think it's a very similar team to Milwaukee. All right, once again, you got some good bats there, but it's thin as you go down the lineup there. They need another bat or two. I do like the rotation. They need Green to be that guy. I'm not talking Tariq Skubal. All right, but just be that guy. Be the true number one. Settle everybody down. Put everybody in their place here. The rotation is more deep than it is. It has more quantity than it is quality. But listen, there is something to be said for quality. We can get decent starts out of people game in and game out here. You can survive an injury or two. Once again, I'm going to put them in the same category, somewhere around 500, probably that 80 to 84 wins there. I said 79 to 74 for Milwaukee. I'd probably put them at 80 to 84. Maybe a tick better than Milwaukee, but not much. Health will determine their fate.
Well, you'll probably want to bet it then because the number right now is 78.5 for the Cincinnati Reds. So I think they get in the 80s as well. I'll agree with you there. Now, perhaps the most complete team, at least in my opinion, and the favorite right now early on to win this division is the Chicago Cubs. Now, you look at the Cubs lineup, much deeper top to bottom, big-time acquisition in the offseason, Kyle Tucker, a game-changing type player. As George said, though, playing for a contract, sometimes there's pressure on guys. We'll see how he performs under that circumstance. Switching over leagues, too, he's going to see some different pitchers a little bit more. So Ian Happ at the top of this lineup, strong offensive player, then Tucker in the 2 spot, Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch hitting and cleanup, Dansby Swanson, another solid player. You'd like to have a little bit of a bounce back. Nico Horner, certainly a terror on the base path. So is Pete Crow Armstrong. Matt Shaw, hopefully a healthy spring, really could go a long way for him. I think he's going to play more games at third base this year for the big club than in the minor leagues. And Miguel Amaya here at catcher. So if Shaw hits like he did in the minor leagues, this is a very formidable lineup. And you've got 2 guys at the top of this rotation I think you can count on. Shota Imanaga, terrific season in 2024. Justin Steele continues to show he has number one type moments. The problem for him is health. And it hasn't been arm issues. It's been hamstring. It's been weird other injuries. So the arm is good. The arm is intact for Justin Steele. Jameson Taillon, a decent number 3 here. Matthew Boyd, an offseason acquisition who finished very well for the Detroit Tigers. Lefty, who has struggled with ERA. He's bounced around for a while. He's had a lot of upside, never really lived up to the hype until the end of last season with the Tigers, and then Colin Ray here at the end of this rotation. They also brought in Ryan Presley to close games here. So the Cubs feel like they've gone all in, pushed their chips into the middle because it is a weaker division. The Cardinals are not the same. We'll get to the Pirates in a second. We already talked that are missing from the Reds. and missing from some of the other teams in this division, like the Milwaukee Brewers. Are the Cubs the favorite, and do you think they can live up to the expectations in 2025?
I think they deserve to be the favorite, but you use the term all in. They're all in with King 10. All right. There's no aces here as far as, oh my God, they're a great team. Their lineup is deeper than the other teams that we've gone over, but it's not a scary lineup. I mean, Swanson was terrible last year. Horner's already hurt. We'll see what we get from PCA. And you mentioned Shaw's a big if. Suzuki is a good player, but there's like I said, there's nothing special here. I love Tucker, by the way. So I'm the Yankee fan. I hope he's a Yankee next year. But there's, like I said, it's just deeper than the other teams. They do have two legitimate, number ones. And I think that's what separates them as well here, because you've got Steele. And you're right, by the way, it's always weird injuries with this guy, but maybe he puts it together and it's still better than what the other teams have. And Menage was great last year. Other than that, the rest of the rotation is, like everybody else. Italian, Boyd, who's just a major league pitchers, but nothing special here. Do I think they're better? Sure. Immensely better? No. I would have them in the 83 to 87 wins, which once again is probably enough. If they reach 87, it's probably enough to win this division, but not by, they're not going to win the division by 10 games. They're not that good.
Last year, we saw Jared Jones show up for the Pittsburgh Pirates and then Paul Skeens. And my goodness, there's even more pitching coming through the pipeline for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So when we come back, we're going to take a look at that Pirates rotation. Can they uphold an offense that is underwhelming? Also, the St. Louis Cardinals look like a team right now, George, with very little direction. So we don't know where they're going with this team. They're trying to jettison Nolan Arenado still. Will they find a landing spot for him before opening day? Time will tell. Also, who's the breakout potentially of this division? We're going to talk about all of that when we return here on FST. Don't go anywhere. Remember to follow us on social media as well on SportsGrid and SportsGrid TV, so you stay up to date with the latest in wagering, because it is March and it's full of madness. We'll be right back right after this.
Philadelphia 76ers, they tried to play two different things. They tried to play contender, and they tried to play protect Joel Embiid. It wasn't doing Joel Embiid any good. And this goes back to what I've talked about numerous times on this network. Why did they let him play in the first place? Why was he on the Olympic team? I mean, we looked at it last year in the playoffs against the Knicks. The damn kid was on one leg.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Paul Skeens is going to throw up a lot of goose eggs, most likely, but it's going to be hard to find some wins with this lineup that the Pittsburgh Pirates are putting out there. What are we doing? Can the Pirates and the Baltimore Orioles get together in a room and make a deal? You've got all this young pitching. You got Bubba Chandler coming through this organization and some more pitchers too. They've got a glut of young position players that they have nowhere to play in Baltimore if they all end up hitting. They all need to get together and make a little swap here. That's what I think. But let's take a look at this lineup for the Pittsburgh Pirates and a look at the win total too. Tommy Pham at the top. Tommy Pham, who's 37 years old. He's played for every major league team, it feels like. Brian Reynolds next. O'Neill Cruz. Andrew McCutchen. Andrew McCutchen and Tommy Pham. This is our answer here where we're going to compete. It's a great ballpark. You mentioned it before. It's one of the best places to watch a game. I just don't know if you're going to see any offense this year. Joey Bart, Derek Hall, Nick Gonzalez has a little bit of upside. Brian Hayes, I don't know when that experiment's going to end, but my God, talk about a disappointing player. And then Isaiah Kiner Falefa. This lineup is pretty uninspiring. Paul Skeens, though, very inspiring. So is Jared Jones. I just had Nick Pollock on my show from Pitcher List talking about the upside of Jared Jones in 2025. Very bullish on him. Mitch Keller, when you have good Mitch Keller, it's about as good as it gets. When you have bad Mitch Keller, it's about as bad as it gets. So he's a guy that if it's not going well on another team, trade for him. And if it's going well on your team, you might want to think about trading him away. The back of this rotation is temporary, though, with Falter and Heaney, because eventually you're going to get Bubba Chandler coming through and some more of these pitching prospects. Look, it's frustrating, I think, if you're a Pirates fan, because you see the potential here, but George, there's just not enough offense to go around.
I mean, I do crush the Orioles for what they did, what they didn't do, I should say. And Pittsburgh's right there. Listen, I'm not saying they'd be a World Series team, but as you're sort of insinuating, and I completely agree, you would have added a legitimate bat or two here, you'd be right there in the division. All right, we know Skeens is a Cy Young candidate, right? And Jared Jones may not be that far behind him. And you're right about Keller, but still, as far as the number three, we'll take that and run. And right, and once again, Heaney, Falter, okay, they may be worse than the other than the Brewers and what the Cubs and what the Reds throw out there as far as 4 and 5. But still, with your top of the rotation, if you had a better lineup, you'd be right there with these teams, right there. And you're so right about Chandler, by the way, and Harrington as well. This team is pitching up the wazoo. All right, they really should have made a deal with Baltimore and gotten a couple of their young bats here. I mean, Tommy Pham, you signed him. You want to trade him for something and whatever you're going to get for him at the deadline here. McCutchen, fine, he's a legacy player. I get it, but he's your cleanup batter. Come on, I mean, what are we doing here? I understand you had a lot of top young prospects that haven't worked out. All right, Joey Bart, San Francisco prospect, hasn't worked out. Brian Hayes, you already said it hasn't worked out here. O'Neill Cruz, it has worked out, but maybe not to the level that you're hoping for. You're going with IKF at shortstop. Didn't you see what the Yankees, the problems they had with him? He's not a shortstop. He can't reach first base with his throws here. It's disappointing, Joe. I mean, if I'm a Pirate fan,
it is.
I'm upset. I'm disappointed for what this team could be. You're talking, I don't know, 75 to 78 wins at best.
Yeah, looking at the St. Louis Cardinals, another team where you're trying to figure out what they're doing. It seems like they're just trying to turn things over, get younger. You got Mason Wynn at the top here at shortstop, a nice player. I like him a lot in fantasy. We've talked about him on some recent shows. Lars Nootbaar at center field. Then you have Wilson Contreras moving from catcher to first base full time because they love him as a catcher. That means Ivan Herrera hitting in the 9 spot as the catcher, who I do like, especially in 2 catcher leagues too. He's got a nice batting average there, nice little bat there at the catcher position. Nolan Arenado, still a Cardinal as of now, slated to hit the cleanup spot. Then Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson. Jordan Walker, I think, is the pivotal one here, George. If Jordan Walker comes up, plays every day in right field and hits, you're in a good spot here. If he doesn't, then the Cardinals are going to be searching for the next couple of years to keep finding where do they go from here, because the Cardinals are used to winning. Nolan Gorman at second base, another player that I'm not enamored of. Too many strikeouts for me. The rotation, Sonny Gray is terrific. I think a lot of contending teams would like to have Sonny Gray in their rotation. Eric Fetty, Mikolas, Palante, Matz, Helsley, the back end of this rotation, at the back end of the bullpen, quite good as well. Cardinals, though, slated for 75.5 wins. The Pittsburgh Pirates, 76.5 wins. George, do either of these teams have a chance to go over that number, or is this pretty much what we're looking at? Just guys and 75-win teams. This is what we have right now. This is what it looks like. I know it's something the Pittsburgh Pirates fans are used to, but the Cardinal fans are not used to this kind of number.
I mean, the Cardinals don't seem like they knew what they wanted to do this offseason, right? Listen, Sonny Gray has the no trade clause, and he says he's not going anywhere. He likes it there. Or Arenado, you want the trade, but he gave you a list of like 3 teams, and you couldn't work out a deal there. All right, and it seems like, once you didn't trade those guys, you didn't know, do we trade Fede, who would have some value there, and you didn't move him. You're not good enough to compete. Maybe in this division you are. Listen, Wynn, Nootbaar, Donovan, Burleson, Walker, Gorman. There's a whole bunch of young players here. Hey, Joe, if they all hit, and this is their year, they could compete, right? But odds are 3 will hit, 3 won't, or 3 will have blah years, and 3, you're not going to get them all to go here. You're probably going to move Arenado at some point, I think. I know Craig thinks it'll be by opening day. I'm not so sure it'll be that. But this seems to be a team right now with no direction. They don't know what do you want to rip it down? Do you want to start from scratch? What do you want to do here? You're going to trade Halsey, who would certainly have value on the market as well here. What are you doing? It seemed like they had the whole offseason. They couldn't figure things out, So I think they're a team they're stuck in middling hell. But of the 2 teams you mentioned, I'd probably say the Cardinals have the better chance to go over their win total. But I have them, once again, less than 500.
All right, let's take a look at the breakouts and, of course, a pitcher, too, that I think could have a real impact on fantasy this year. Matt Shaw, first of all, the breakout in this division for me. 159 minor league games, hit 303, a 384 OBP, a 522 slugging percentage. I think the kid's ready. He's got nothing else to prove in the minor league, so I'm looking at Matt Shaw to make a big impact. And the sleeper in this division, I think, is coming from the Reds. I think it is Nick Lodolo. That Reds team, very exciting. I know last year, Nick Lodolo was a player that at a 4.76 ERA, but he's only 27 years old. There's still a lot to like here. Another very good minor league track record, a lot of strikeout potential here for Nick Lodolo in 2025. So if he is healthy this spring, going in last year, there's a finger issue that ended up derailing the end of his season. Health is the most important thing. Nick Lodolo, I think, eventually will play out. We come back. We're going to close things out here strong with a 3 and out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Philadelphia 76ers, they tried to play 2 different things. They tried to play contender, and they tried to play protect Joel Embiid. It wasn't doing Joel Embiid any good. This goes back to what I've talked about numerous times on this network. Why did they let him play in the first place? Why was he on the Olympic team? I mean, we looked at it last year in the playoffs against the Knicks. The damn kid was on one leg.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everybody, to Fantasy Sports today here on a Sunday. Make sure you stay on the network here for all-day coverage of everything going on in sports. We've got some news to update you on as well. We have breaking news here. Junior Caminero is back and hitting third today in the lineup. So that was a big question. It was one of the things I was looking for is how's that back of Junior Caminero? Because he's had a very good spring to start off the year, and he is one of my favorite players going into 2025, but back issues can certainly get the season off to a bad start. Looks like it was just a hiccup. That is very important here. So Caminero back playing today. That is a positive. Jurickson Profar, we mentioned at the top of the show, he is going to be flying to Atlanta for a CAT scan on the injured left wrist. So hopefully things come back clear for him. The x-rays were negative. I think it's just precautionary. We will see. Also, Matt Manning, the prospect that everybody kept waiting for years and years for Detroit Tigers. He is going to AAA. It's funny, George, we were waiting for Casey Mize and Matt Manning, and then ended up being Tariq Skubal, who ended up being the Cy Young winner. We were looking for somebody to emerge from that prospect group, and Skubal was not the number one guy on anyone's list a few years ago. Christian Walker also continues to deal with that oblique issue. We mentioned that also in the beginning of the program. He is going to start his swing progression. So there you go. There you have it, George. Now, George, you mentioned that if Garrett Cole's news does not come back good early this week, that you're just going to check out from the entire Yankees season? Are you ready to do that?
Well, wait, it's not just Garrett Cole. Yankees also lost Louis Heel. All right. They don't have a third baseman. Great job, Cashman. Stanton's out. I mean, it's someone's got a string on the Yankees, and they're pulling the string, and it's all unraveling here. You already said it. The Yankees don't know what they're going to get from Goldschmidt, who wasn't very good last year. All right. There's so many question marks. Maybe Dominguez becomes that player. Maybe he doesn't. But the Yankee rotation right now is Max Fried, who you and I, neither one of us believes is making 32 starts. All right. Clark Schmidt is already behind a little bit, though he's fine. Rodon, okay. Not that great. And then Stroman, who they couldn't give away. They would have given you Stroman for a bag of balls. All right. But they couldn't trade him. And Will Warren, who really wasn't all that good in a brief stint last year. Maybe he's improved during the offseason. But the thing is, Joe, assuming Heel is out long-term and Cole's out long-term, you're not going through the season with those five starters. They're going to get hurt, too, a couple of those guys. You have Carlos Carrasco. He's about done anyway. And there's nobody else. The Yankees are they're a little short here, and they needed a bat or two anyway. All right, so the Yankees are in a lot of trouble here. I said it yesterday with Craig. You might want to look at those Boston Red Sox futures. All right, the other team that they could be that big threat in the American League East now. They've made improvements, and they have money. They go out and make more improvements should they want to. The Blue Jays too, but Joe, I always buy it on the Blue Jays, and I'm always wrong because this team never plays anywhere near as well as they should here. Orioles are done. They played a terrible offseason. I don't think the Rays can do all that much playing at Steinbrenner Field either here. But the Boston Red Sox team, I'm really starting to like their futures of.
Do you think if Garrett Cole news comes back negative that it forces Cashman's hand to make a move and be more aggressive for Arenado to try to bolster the offense?
I do. Yeah, I do. He has to. There's no pitchers out there to get. I mean, I've been joking about the Yankees getting Alcantara, which I think will be in play at some point here. I don't know if they have the prospects to do it, but I think that one thing you can go is try and fix the offense, and Arenado is the obvious choice here. But Hal doesn't want to pay that money. Remember, everything that Arenado makes is double with this the luxury tax. So he's making, I don't know how much he's making. He's making $25 a year. That's $50 million to the Yankees. So I don't know if they'll be willing to do that. Not in whatever prospect cost it might be, and they won't give up much for him.
All right, let's get to the three now here. Again, Junior Caminero playing today, so hopefully, fingers crossed, things are good with that back. Mike Trout's progress, too, is very important this spring. Can we get a full season out of Mike Trout?
No.
What could have been for this career? George is going to say no, and George might not be wrong. Also, speaking of Tommy John, more of those returns to keep an eye on as well. We got a lot of guys returning from Tommy John surgeries. Alcantara, you mentioned before, Shane McClanahan, Shohei Ohtani, just to name a few. But there's lots of other ones, too. Jacob deGrom actually threw a baseball yesterday in a game. What did you think of deGrom's performance yesterday? So far, so good, but feels like the ADP is a little high for me, George.
Remember that my home league where I had Cole and I couldn't keep him? I traded McClanahan earlier that day, so he was my second choice. I kept DeGrom. I drafted over TJ Guys last year, and that league was my team. I had no draft picks, so I just was playing. I was playing for this year, so I kept DeGrom. Listen, I'm fully aware. Forget 32 starts. He's not making 22 starts. I know that. But it's the best of ways. It was either him or Salvador Perez as my last keeper. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for us, everybody. But the story of the game goes on. For George Kurtz, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy your Sunday here on SportsGrid.